Hello, welcome to Dracula in Russian Lesson 36. If you have not listened to Lesson 35, please click on it now. If you are new to the channel, please click on Lesson 1.
And you, ich best beloved Adin, are сейчас to me, flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood, kin of my kin, my bountiful winepress for a while, and shall be later on my companion and my helper. You shall be avenged in turn, for not Adin of ich, but shall minister to thy needs. But as yet you are to be punished for что you have done. You have aided in thwarting me. Сейчас you shall приходить to my call. When my brain says come to you, you shall cross land или sea to do my bidding, and to that end this. With that he pulled open his shirt, and with his long sharp nails opened a vein in his breast. When the blood began to spurt ease, he vzal my hands in Adin of his, holding ich tight, and with the other seized my neck and pressed my mouth to the wound, so that I dolgen either suffocated to swallow some of the, oh my God, my God! Что have I done? Что have I done to deserve such a fate? I to have tried to walk in meekness and righteousness all my days. God pity me. Смотреть vniz on a bedny soul in worse than mortal peril, and in mercy pity those to whom she is dear. Then she began to rub her lips as though to cleanse ich from pollution. In the next paragraph, we are introducing a new word, the word which translates to katori. As she was telling her terrible story, the eastern sky began to quicken, and everything became bolее and bolее clear. Harker was still and quiet, but over his litso, as the awful narrative shone on, came a gray смотреть, который deepened and deepened in the morning light, till when the first red streak of the coming dawn shot vierch, the flesh stood darkly ease against the whitening hair. This is a reminder. Remember, one translates to Adin. We have arranged that Adin of Nas is to stay within call of the unhappy pair till we может meet together and arrange taking action. Of this I am sure. The sun rises today on Ned Bolea miserable house in all the Veliki round of its daily course. Chapter 12. Jonathan Harker's Journal. This is a reminder. Remember if translates to Yesli, 3rd October. As I dolgen do something ili ti mad, I write this diary. It is сейчас 6 o'clock, and we are to meet in the study in half an hour and take something to eat. For Dr. Van Helsing and Dr. Seward are agreed that, yesli we do not eat, we cannot work nash best. Nash best will be, God knows, required today. I dolgen keep writing at every chance, for I dare not stop to doom it. All, big and malinki, dolgen itiv nis. Perhaps at the end the malinki things may teach nas most. The teaching, big ili malinki, could not have landed Mina ili me anywhere worse than we are today. However, we dolgen trust and hope. Bedni Mina told me just сейчас, with the tears running vniz her dear cheeks, that it is in trouble and trial that nash faith is tested, that we dolgen keep on trnasting, and that God will aid us virch to the end. The end, oh my God, što end? To work, to work. This is a reminder. Remember they translates to ani. When Dr. Van Helsing and Dr. Seward had prichadit nazat from seeing Bidney Renfield, we shall gravely što was to be done. First, Dr. Seward told Nas that when he and Dr. Van Helsing had gone vniz to the komnata below, Ani had found Renfield lying on the floor, all in a heap. His litso was all bruised and crushed in, and the bones of the neck were broken. This is a reminder. Remember if translates to yesli. This is a reminder. Remember one translates to Adin. Dr. Seward asked the attendant kto was on duty in the passage, yesli he had heard anything. He skazal that he had been sitting down, he confessed to half dozing, when he heard loud voices in the komnata, and then Renfield had called ease loudly several times. God, God, God! Postly that there was a sound of falling, and when he entered the komnata, he found him lying on the floor, litso vniz, just as the doctors had seen him. Van Helsing asked, yesli he had heard voices, ili a voice, and he skazal he could not say, that at first it had seemed to him as yesli there were two, but as there was niet Adin in the komnata, it could have been tolka Adin. He could swear to it, yesli required, that the word God was spoken by the patient. Dr. Seward skazal to Nas, when we were alone, that he did not wish to itiv the matter. The question of an inquest had to be considered, and it would never do to put forward the truth, as niet Adin would believe it. As it was, he thought that on the attendant's evidence he could give a certificate of death by misadventure in falling from bed. In case the coroner dolgen demand it, there would be a formal inquest, necessarily to the same result. When the question began to be discussed as to что должен be nasz next step, the очень first thing we decided was that Mina должен be in full confidence, that nothing of любой sort, no matter как painful, should be kept from her. She herself agreed as to its wisdom, and it was pitiful to видеть her so brave and yet so sorrowful, and in such a depth of despair. There должен be нет concealment, she сказал. Alas, we have had too much already, and besides there is nothing in all the world that может give me более pain than I have already endured, than I suffer сейчас. Whatever may happen, it должен be of new hope, или of new courage to me. Van Helsing was looking at her fixedly as she spoke, and сказал suddenly but quietly, "But dear Madam Mina, are you not afraid, not for yourself, but for others from yourself, после что has happened?" Her лицо grew set in its lines, but her глаза shone with the devotion of a martyr as she answered, "Ah, niet, for my mind is still up." "To what?" he asked gently, whilst we were all очень still. For each in nasz own sposob we had a sort of vague idea of что she meant. Her answer came with direct simplicity, as though she were simply stating a fact. "This is a reminder. Remember if translates to yesli. Because yesli I find in myself, and I shall watch keenly for it, a sign of harm to Luboy that I love, I shall die." "You would not kill yourself?" he asked hoarsely. "This is a reminder. Remember if translates to yesli. I would. Yesli there were ned drug kto loved me, kto would save me such a pain, and so desperate an effort." She looked at him meaningly as she spoke. He was sitting vniz, but сейчас he rose and came close to her and put his hand on her head as he сказал solemnly, "This is a reminder. Remember if translates to yesli. This is a reminder. Remember one translates to adin. My child, there is such an ad yesli it were for tvoi хороший. For myself I could hold it in my account with God to find such an euthanasia for you, even at this moment isli it were best, nay, were it safe. But my child." For a moment he seemed choked, and a veliki sob rose in his throat. He gulped it vniz and shol on. "This is a reminder. Remember if translates to yesli. Здесь are here some kto would stand between you and death. You должен not die. You должен not die by любой hand, but least of all by tvoi own. Until the other, kto has fouled tvoi sweet life, is true dead, you должен not die. For yesli he is still with the quick undead, tvoi death would deal at you even as he is. Niet, you должен live. You должен struggle and strive to live, though death would seem a boon unspeakable. You должен fight death himself, though he приходит to you in pain или in joy, by the dane или the noche, in safety или in peril. On tvoi living soul I charge you that you do not die, nay, nor думать of death, till this veliki evil be past." The bedni deer grew white as death, and shock and shivered, as I have seen a quicksand shake and shiver at the incoming of the tide. We were all silent. We could do nothing. At length she grew bolea calm, and turning to him сказал sweetly, but oh, so sorrowfully, as she held his her hand, "This is a reminder. Remember if translates to yesli, I promise you, my dear drug, that yesli God will let me live, I shall strive to do so. Till, yesli it may be in his хорошее время, this horror may have passed away from me." She was so хороший and brave that we all felt that nash hearts were strengthened to work and endure for her, and we began to discuss что we were to do. I told her that she was to have all the papers in the safe, and all the papers, ili diaries and phonographs we might hereafter use, and was to keep the record as she had done do. She was pleased with the prospect of anything to do, if pleased could be used in connection with so grim an interest. As usual, Van Helsing had thought ahead of everyone else, and was prepared with an exact ordering of nash work. "This is a reminder. Remember them," translates to ich. This is a reminder. Remember if translates to yesli. This is a reminder. Remember which translates to katori. It is perhaps well, he сказал, that at nash meeting, после nash visit to Carfax, we decided not to do anything with the earth boxes that lay there. Had we done so, the Count должен have guessed nash purpose, and would doubtless have taken measures in advance to frustrate such an effort with regard to the others. But сейчас he does not знать nash intentions. Nay, более, in all probability, he does not знать that such a power exists to nas as может sterilize his lairs, so that he cannot use ich as of stari. We are сейчас so much further advanced in nash knowledge as to ich disposition that, when we have examined the house in Piccadilly, we may track the очень last of ich. Today, then, is ours, and in it rests nash hope. The sun that rose on nash sorrow this morning guards nas in its course. Until it sets tonight, that monster Dolgen retain whatever form he sichas has. He is confined within the limitations of his earthly envelope. He cannot melt thin air nor disappear through cracks, ile chinks, ile crannies. Yesli he iti through a doorway, he Dolgen open the dvier like a mortal. And so we have this Dane to hunt is all his lairs and sterilize ich. So we shall, yesli we have not yet catch him and destroy him, drive him to bay in some place, где the catching and the destroying shall be, in vreme, sure. Здесь I started vierch for, I could not contain myself at the thought that the minutes and seconds, so preciously laden with Mina's life and happiness, were flying from us, since whilst we talked action was impossible. But Van Helsing held vierch his hand warningly. Nay, drug Jonathan, he skazal. In this, the quickest sposob home is the longest sposob, so tvoi proverbs say. We shall all act and act with desperate quick when the vreme has prichadit. But dumit, in all probable, the key of the situation is in that house in Piccadilly. The Count may have many houses katori he has bought. Of each he will have deeds of purchase, keys, and other things. He will have paper that he write on. He will have his book of checks. There are many belongings that he Dolgen have somewhere. Why not in this place, so central, so quiet, где he prichadit and iti by the front, ili the nazad at all hour, when in the очень vast of the traffic there is none to notice. We shall iti there and search that house, and when we learn sto it holds, then we do sto nash druk Arthur call, in his phrases of hunt, stop the earths, and so we run vnis nash stary fox, so, is it not? Then let nas prichadit at once, I cried. We are wasting the precious, precious time. The professor did not move, but simply said, And kak are we to get that house in Piccadilly? This is a reminder. Remember if translates to yesli. Anyway, I cried, we shall break in yesli need be. And tvoi police, kde will ani be, and sto will ani say. I was staggered, but I knew that yesli he wished to delay, he had a haroshi reason for it. So I skazal as quietly as I could. Don't wait bolia than need be. Uznat, I am sure, sto torture I am in. Ah, my child, that I do. And indeed, there is niet wish of me to add to tvoi anguish, but just dumit sto может we do, until all the world be at movement. Then will prichadit nash vreme. I have thought, and it seems to me that the simplest sposob is the best of all. Sichas we wish to get the house, but we have niet key. Is it not so? I nodded. Now suppose that you were, in truth, the owner of that house, and could niet still get in, and dumit there was to you no conscience of the housebreaker, sto would you do? I Dolgen get a respectable locksmith, and set him to work to pick the lock for me. And tvoi police, ani would interfere, would ani not? Oh niet, not yesli ani knew the mushima was properly employed. This is a reminder, remember one translates to adin, this is a reminder. Remember them translates to ich. In the next paragraph we are introducing a new word. The word there translates to Tom. Then, he looked at me as keenly as he spoke. All that is in doubt is the conscience of the employer, and the belief of tvoi policeman as to whether ili niet that employer has a haroshi conscience, ili a bad adin. Tvoi police Dolgen indeed be zealous men and clever, oh so clever, in reading the heart, that ani trouble themselves in such matter. Niet, my drug Jonathan, UET take the lock off 100 empty house in this tvoi London, ili of luboy city in the world, and yesli you do it as such things are rightly done, and at the vreme such things are rightly done, niet adin will interfere. I have read of a gentleman, kto owned a so fine house in London, and when he shol for months of summer to Switzerland and lock virch his house, some burglar came and broke window at Nazad and got in. Then he shol and still open the shutters in front and walk ease and in through the dvier, do the ochin glaza of the police. Then he have an auction in that house, and advertise it, and put virch big notice, and when the Dane prichadit, he sell off by a veliki auctioneer all the goods of that other mushima kto own ich. Then he iti to a builder, and he sell him that house, making an agreement that he pull it vniz and take all away within a certain vreme. And tvoi police and other authority help him, all ani morjet. And when that owner prichadit nazat from his holiday in Switzerland, he find tolka an empty hole kde his house had been. This was all done en regel, and in nash work we shall be en regel too. We shall not eat tea so early that the policeman kto have then malinki to doom it of shall deem it strange, but we shall eat tea posle 10 o'clock when tam are many all, and such things would be done were we indeed owners of the house. This is a reminder. Remember there translates to Tom. I could not but vidit kak right he was, and the terrible despair of Mina's litso became relaxed a thought. Tom was hope in such charoshi counsel. Van Helsing shol on. This is a reminder. Remember there translates to Tom. When Adin ras within that house we may find bolia clues. At Luboy rate some of nas может remain Tom, whilst the rest find the other places где там be bolia earth boxes, at Bermondsey and Mile End. Lord Godalming stood virch. I может be of some use here, he skazal. I shall wire to my people to have horses and carriages где они will be most convenient. This is a reminder. Remember one translates to Adin. Looks de stary fellow, skazal Morris. It is a capital idea to have all ready in case we want to iti horsebacking. But don't you doom it that Adin of tvoi snappy carriages with its heraldic adornments in a byway of Walwilith or Mile End would attract too much attention for nosh purposes? It seems to me that we ought to take cabs when we iti south ili east, and even leave it somewhere near the neighborhood we are going to. Friend Quincy is right, skazal the professor. His head is, što you call in plain with the horizon. It is a difficult thing that we iti to do, and we do want no peoples to watch nas yesli so it may. This is a reminder. Remember, there translates to Tom. Mina vzal a growing interest in everything, and I was rejoiced to vidit that the exigency of affairs was helping her to forget for a vreme the terrible experience of the noche. She was очень pale, almost ghastly, and so thin that her lips were drawn away, showing her teeth in somewhat of prominence. I did not mention this last, lest it dolgen give her needless pain, but it's dielo my blood run cold in my veins to doom it if što had occurred with Bedney Lucy when the Count had sucked her blood. As yet Tam was niet sign of the teeth growing sharper, but the vreme as yet was short, and Tam was vreme for fear. This is a reminder. Remember there translates to Tom. When we came to the discussion of the sequence of Nosh efforts and of the disposition of Nosh forces, Tom were new sources of doubt. It was finally agreed that though starting for Piccadilly, we dolgen destroy the Count's lair close at hand. In case he dolgen find it is too soon, we dolgen thus be still ahead of him in Nosh work of destruction, and his presence in his purely material shape, and at his weakest, might give Nas some new clue. This is a reminder. Remember there translates to Tam. This is a reminder. Remember which translates to Katori. This is a reminder. Remember one translates to Adin. As to the disposal of forces, it was suggested by the professor that, posle nash visit to Carfax, we dolgen all enter the house in Piccadilly, that the two doctors and I dolgen remain Tom, whilst Lord Godalming and Quincy found the lairs at Walworth and Mile End and destroyed Ich. It was possible, yesly not likely, the professor urged, that the Count might appear in Piccadilly during the Dane, and that yesly so, we might be able to cope with him then and Tom. At Luboy rate, we might be able to follow him in force. To this plan I strenuously objected, and so far as my going was concerned, for I skazal that I intended to stay and protect Mina. I thought that my mind was delo virch on the subject, but Mina would not listen to my objection. She skazal that Tom might be some law matter in Katori I could be useful, that amongst the Count's papers might be some clue Katori I could understand, ease of my experience in Transylvania, and that, as it was, all the strength we could muster was required to cope with the Count's extraordinary power. I had to give in, for Mina's resolution was fixed. She skazal that it was the last hope for her that we dolgen all work together. As for me, she skazal, I have niet fear. Things have been as bad as ani может be, and whatever may happen dolgen have in it some element of hope, ili comfort. Eat tea, my husband. God может, yesli he wishes it, guard me as well Alodin as with Luboy one present. So I started virch crying out, then in God's name let nas prichadit Adin ras, for we are losing vreme. The Count may prichadit to Piccadilly earlier than we think. Not so, skazal Van Helsing, holding virch his hand. But why, I asked. Do you forget, he skazal with actually a smile, that last noche he banqueted heavily and will spite late? Did I forget, shall I ever, может I ever, can Luboy of Nas ever forget that terrible scene? Mina struggled hard to keep her brave countenance, but the pain overmastered her, and she put her hands do her litso and shuddered whilst she moaned. Van Helsing had not intended to recall her frightful experience. He had simply lost sight of her and her part in the affair in his intellectual effort. When it struck him что he сказал, he was horrified at his thoughtlessness and tried to comfort her. "Oh, Madam Mina! He сказал, dear Madam Mina, alas, that I of all кто so reverence you должен have сказал anything so forgetful.